for arriving late. Our closed session took a little more time than we anticipated, but we are going to start with our study session first, and then we will return to the business of the board, hopefully at about 7:15 or so. And at this point, what I was going to do is I was going to hand it over to Chancellor Walter to do the introductions, but I'm not exactly sure if she's in our Zoom room. Do we have her in yet?
She is not. I just text her. No, I just text her.
Oh, I'm in. Are you
what?
talking?
No, the Chancellor.
Oh, I just texted. Yeah, I texted her as well.
Okay.
I'm wondering if Dr. Griffin and Dr. Riggs, do you want to do your introduction so that we don't continue to have you pause and wait for everybody else?
Certainly, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you very much for having us. And I understand I'm on a school board how these things work. So we'll work with you. We have a short presentation for you about updating the strategic master plan, specifically the strategic goals this evening. And also to have, we have Tina and Joseph here with us as well to talk about the mission and updating the mission. So we'll get started. Robert?
No, it's just a pleasure to be back with the board again. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you would like, we could go ahead and start our presentation, and then I will be sharing my screen. And if there are any comments or questions during the presentation, I'm not going to be able to see you, so somebody's going to have to interrupt us so we can get the question. Again, it's a short PowerPoint. I believe all of you had access to it. And we'll talk through kind of a two-step strategy that we're recommending to the district as far as updating their strategic master plan. So if you're ready, I'll go ahead and I'll attempt to share my screen here. And okay, can you all see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, Robert and I have been working with Interim Chancellor Walter and the executive staff of the district and colleges, and have also met with the PGC, Participatory Governance Council. We reviewed very similar information as we're assisting to update the strategic master plan and really focusing on the strategic goals. And the purpose is to be able to bring back to the board in September an updated document for your consideration and adoption. And that will allow the colleges and other divisions there throughout the district, especially the colleges, to really robustly update their educational master plans. If you look at community college planning, really that's where the meat of planning is. It's in the educational master plans. The strategic plan provides general guidance. So with that, that's what we want to talk about, and then we'll ask Tina and Joseph to talk about the mission, updating the mission statement as well. Reality, it's a new normal out there, and community colleges are really asked to become world-class organizations that really need to be innovative and continuously improving. I think we've seen that over the last year or so, and certainly you've seen it in your district. The continuous shifting that's going on, and it's going to continue to go on. It's going to be a different world. We come out of this pandemic with student flow, with economics, and so on. The other is a reason to update the strategic goals is to put first and foremost the renewed consciousness about equity and social, racial, and economic justice. And we can't forget about accreditation and accountability. That is very important. It shouldn't be the only driver, but in reality, it's something that really has to be out there as well. And with declining and shifting enrollments, to have those umbrella strategic goals that are going to guide those actions of the college and the district. as they go forward to shore up your enrollments and meet the needs of the students and your communities. There's changing funding structures and priorities. We hear a lot about the SCIF, and I think the SCIF is something that really brings to the forefront a need for some shift in the strategic goals, or at least a redefinition of them. And we're seeing, and we're not going to stop seeing, a deluge of statewide and national initiatives. They're going to keep coming at us here. And so to have goals that can adapt and provide guidance for those. And you have new leadership at your college, and new leadership in your district. So it's a good time. It's a real fresh time to take a look at your strategic goals. And of course, there's changing population throughout your district, throughout the state of California, as well as job market realities. But I want to come back to one of the things that I don't have on the slide, and that is the critical nature to update the strategic goals, the part of the strategic master plan, so the colleges could really in earnest start the work on their educational master plans. I think some of them are already started, but to have something very updated, and then look to the future, starting in the fall, perhaps, or sometime next year with your new chancellor, with your new college presidents, and with your various stakeholder groups, is plan and implement a very robust, could be a year-long planning process to update or even to develop a new strategic master plan, to involve the community, to involve everyone throughout the college community. And so this is not trying to work around that process. It's putting something there first, so you'll have an opportunity to have a strategic master plan, and then some time under your new leadership to really develop those, have charrettes, to have community forums, and so on, to really update that. Robert?
We say new normal as if we understand what that means. And Jim and I are working with clients across the state in different capacities, and it's an unknown. It is an absolute what a new normal is. And when you talk about that, people are coming back into this environment with intentions of accomplishing past goals and exceeding those goals without understanding the kinds of factors that are going to impact them. It's a complicated time, but what the planning process does, it allows for collective intelligence to be developed, collective capacity for people to do the work. It is talking about these in a way that informs and engages people along the way. So the planning process can be cumbersome, complicated, but it is very informative and is very helpful to that process of dealing with this so-called new normal, or the unknown that all colleges are going to be faced with in the future.
Okay, great. I'm not going to read down this slide. You can all see it there, but basically the activities that we're having underway between now and fall is to review the goals, and then to come up with definitions and key performance indicators. And then you can see down later on the slide, really need to build an infrastructure. So there's ongoing review and updating the master plan after the fall. And that's going to take some administration. It's going to take some planning groups or some sort of organization there. Your involvement, one of the things we have noticed, and we've talked with the chancellor about, is your board policy on strategic planning 3250 does not include the board in the planning process. And that's one thing we'll talk a little bit later on here, but we believe you should consider exploring updating the board policy to have the involvement that the board feels that they should have in developing the strategic plan. So we're here talking about it today. Then the next steps here would be to bring back some draft policies or some samples to the chancellor's office for you to look at as well. And as I mentioned, there you see a number 5. We'll be looking at a timeline to have that robust strategic planning process that'll include the community. But that can't happen between now and September. It just something that needs to be allowed to breathe and to really take time when we have time, or you have time to do so. Robert?
The previous slide. Can you go back to the
Sure.
previous slide for a second? The previous slide. Okay. Yeah, please. So, maybe it's just prior to this one, because you don't mind. Okay. So the idea of establishing representative key performance indicators is so critical. And again, that really is an opportunity for a broad discussion on what that means, because that's going to be the sense of measuring the accomplishments along the way. You set these goals, but underneath the goals, you got the strategic objectives, and then you have to determine how are we doing at accomplishing these objectives. And then there is at the bottom, it talks about a group responsible for the plan. And so that's going to be critical. That says that this is what we said we want to do. This is how we're going to determine if we're doing that. And then we have a body of people who are committed to ensuring that we're continuously reviewing the plan. And again, it is and informs the entire organization and the district as you move through these processes. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, I'll continue on here. Just timeline in updating the strategic master plan, the strategic goals. We met with district executive cabinet in December to discuss updating the strategic master plan, talk about timelines, planning assumptions, planning themes, and how to link all the district and college plans to the strategic master plan. We then met again on January 8th in an all-day retreat to talk about organizational vision and draft strategic plans for this update, and also revisited the timeline. Originally, we were looking at trying to have the update done before your accreditation visit, and that just was not feasible. So the idea is that you could share with your visiting teams that this process is underway and that there's a clear timeline for this. Robert and I met with the Participatory Governance Council at the end of February and reviewed the timeline and also the draft strategic goals that are here. I'll show you in just a little bit. And then early April, we will go to each of the colleges' governance councils and review the process for updating the strategic master plan and how it will link to their educational master plans. And then in early April to mid-May, the plan is to provide some definition for those strategic goals and to develop some representative key performance indicators, not all key performance indicators, but some representative ones for each of the goals, and then to look at a calendar and a process for annual review of the cycle of planning, and then a process for and timeline for linking the plans. And then one thing that will be added that is not there, and that is updating the strategic plan to the state chancellor's office vision for success and their call to action as well. So that's where we're going. Then in mid-May would be to draft the updated strategic master plan through July. That's really be more of a group or a clerical administrative function there. At that time, Chancellor Walters has indicated that we would have the information from the environmental scans that could be put into a chapter in the strategic plan. And then in fall, just as soon as people come back, start fall semester, is to circulate the final draft to the governance groups in both the college and the district, and take input. And then the plan is to bring the updated strategic master plan with primarily the strategic goals back to the Board of Trustees for consideration and adoption in September 2021. And that also might be the time where we could talk about updating the policy as well. And then begin or continue the cycle of updating the college's educational master plans. So again, that's the timeline and the process. Again, we'll come back, talk a little bit about the mission statement here in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to get quickly to the organizational vision that is in the draft updates, and that is to build a world-class organization that's innovative, and then using continuous quality improvement in all functions at the Peralta Community College District. So that's a guiding organizational vision. And then the 7 strategic goals are improving the students' matriculation, the journey, and their success. Advancing equity and social and racial justice. Strengthening resources, fiscal, material, IT, facilities, and human resources, all resources. Addressing functional organizational alignment and processes. Assuring a safe and healthy environment. Improving organizational climate and culture. And advancing sustainable environmental stewardship. So underneath that would be the key performance indicators, and then the other plans would write the institutional objectives, activities, priorities, timelines, and those would inform budgeting and so on. Robert?
I think that you've covered it. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here, and then go ahead and take any questions or comments. And then I'll also want to leave time certainly for the discussion on the mission statement.
Thank you for that. Maybe I'll start off with a couple questions. So the board policy 3250 and the AP 3250 in the revision. I guess one of the questions that I want to ask is, at the same time that we do that, would we be also, because I remember in our last conversation, we were talking about the mission and the ways in which the board needs to be involved in the mission, the creation of the mission statement. So are we approaching the mission statement through the strategic planning board policy, or will there be another policy as it relates to the mission statement? And what is typical and conventional across the state in terms of board engagement with the mission statement?
Okay, I know Tina, you had looked into that, and so perhaps Tina could address that. Then Robert and I will also address it as
Yes,
part of the
absolutely. I'd like
planning
to
process.
Yeah.
Sure. So Joseph and I actually today looked at the league's recommendation on BP 1200s, right? Which we have, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have it to share at the moment, but we can send it to you all. It talks about, basically, it describes the mission, and then it also includes a timeline for updating the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm seeing for BP 1200s from the league recommendation. I'm not seeing anything else in there about board or anybody else's, to be honest, the process around how you update it. So I think that's left to the district and also the colleges, and their respective missions. And it's in the standard, obviously standard 1 for the colleges, right, which is different and doesn't impact, we talked about this in December,
Right.
the district. So that sort of, I think, leaves open for opportunity if you all want to change maybe an AP related to BP 1200 or something, going forward.
Thank you for that research, Dr. Vasconcelos.
Sure.
So to go back to the question, asking which comes first, the board policy, or is it simultaneous that you do the board policy of the mission? The B and the APs don't reference any board involvement. So I think it's important to have that discussion. What does it mean to have board involvement? Where do you fit in that process? And so maybe before you engage in the mission statement element, you want to ensure that everyone is clear about your role, your function, and the input as a board.
Yeah, and I'll address
Jim?
the sequence. I think that's a very good question. In a very robust strategic planning process is typically of vision, mission, values get discussed as the kind of the advanced organizer of the process. So it is part of the robust strategic master plan. So, you know, as you look at going forward, it really needs to be out there. The mission needs to be out there even before you write to your strategic goals in the best process possible. And sometimes they're disconnected, but when you do a strategic master planning process, the first thing typically that gets looked at is vision and mission and values, and either they're reaffirmed
Right.
or they're modified, or new ones are placed there. And then looking, and that's also guided by environmental scans and, you know, the realities that you're all dealing with, and where you want to take your district. Like that's very important discussions as well. You do have choice there and how you want to approach that. So with that, Robert, do you have anything else you'd like to add on that?
The district, I mean, you do have a mission. So, and that has been the guiding principle now for the work that's being performed. And so I understand that there was a question, is it the one that we have in place, or is there another we want to consider? And so that's one element of it. The other element then says, as we look at revisiting the topic of mission statement, how clear is it to everyone, all governance groups and to institutions, the district-wide, what our role is and what accountability anyone doing that kind of work has to the board? And I think that would be the value of looking at the board policies and the APs.
Yeah, and I believe it's important for the board to have a discussion to determine the role that would be appropriate for your district, your board. Obviously, you want to have a wide input to the process. You want it to go through, and it sounded like it did, but the board was not involved from what I heard during the discussion of a couple months ago. And have a discussion, how would you like to be involved? Updates, would you like to have drafts come to you? Then that could be part of the AP there.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that actually, I think, goes to my second question. And my second question was going to be about, as we think about the key indicators and then the benchmarks, and then how we're assessing how we're doing according to those indicators. What we want to probably do is we want to have updates so that we at the board level know how the district and how the colleges are doing. It seems to me that we probably will need guidance in terms of best practices and how best and how most effectively to be within our positionality to do what we need to be doing as it relates to strategic planning as well as mission. And it seems like from our conversations, we're a little unclear as to how best to do it. And so we would probably need your guidance in that way as we move forward, so we can do exactly what we need to be doing. Bill, do you have your hand up, or is there another trustee that has a question or a comment?
Let's see.
Oh,
Trustee Gonzalez.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification around various steps in the process. And I think our board policy potentially allows for board involvement, but apparently what the appropriate segments of the college community are determined by the chancellor. So if you have a chancellor who says, yes, it's appropriate to involve the board in that process, then the board might be involved. I think it would be appropriate for that policy to be revised. In fact, I think kind of essential. I'm wondering at what point then do we engage in the substantive conversation about the mission, vision, and values? So principally right now, we're talking about a process to figure out how to involve us. But in this entire time for the last year, as we've been considering potentially approving a revised mission statement, we actually haven't engaged in any substantive conversation about that mission statement. And I personally really want to honor the work that that went into the redrafting of the process, but I have no way of understanding the thinking behind it to lead to a very slimmed down revision. And there's been no way of sort of engaging in that conversation. So when will we actually engage in the substantive discussion of the vision, mission, values of the district?
Well, my response to that would be the vision, mission, and values. It would be really in that package would be the first part of the discussion in the robust update or rewrite or developing a new strategic master plan, and that would be the front part of a year-long process. And again, what we're doing here is just updating the goals so we can move forward, comply with help you comply with accreditation issues, and so on, and then also give the colleges some guidance there. And I would see, and perhaps Joseph and Tina could also comment on this, that the consideration for the mission statement right now would be pretty much the same. Is get something out there, either reaffirm what you currently have, adopt what they put forward. I'm not here to recommend either one of them, but that's how I would see it. But you ask a very, very important question, because the board should be very much involved in that very front end of vision, mission, and values. But it's all going to be a part of a much longer process than what we're trying to accomplish here.
So the other substantive part of what I'd like to add is that when we get to that conversation, it is my sincere hope that it actually can be a deliberative process that engages not only board members with each other. We represent different parts of the East Bay, different constituent groups, but I think we probably have a lot that we would look at and say, yes, we all agree on these things. I think the additional challenge then is to make sure that our discussion is actually informed by a robust interactive process with the people who work and study within the district. So, again, I think for me, and I'm just speaking for me, I'm not attempting to speak for the entire board here. For me, the challenging part of being asked, here, vote this up or down, was not being able to have any idea of what particular words might mean and what was the thinking behind it. And I found that very unsatisfying as a policy maker trying to make policy in a vacuum or in a partial vacuum. So as we do move forward, I hope built into our procedures, in fact, there will be some interactive component between the board and people who study and work in the district throughout the district. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Trustee Withrow?
Just to segue a bit from what Trustee Yoon was talking about, as board members, from my perspective, we represent the community. Yes, we're here to govern, if you will, policies and of the institution, but at least in my feeling, one of our biggest roles is to involve the community. and to bring the needs and especially the needs coming out of this pandemic thing that we're in. But in any event, what are the needs of the community? And where in the strategic goals is that addressed? That whether it's relations with the unified school districts, but employers, where do we involve the employers, whether they be career technical education hiring type employers, or whether they have employees that need advanced education in their roles in their businesses. We know that for every level of education, and we'll start with an AA, going into the community, that community's gross domestic product is accelerated. We recognize that. Where is that brought into the strategic planning process?
That would be in the educational master plans at the colleges, who are working with their local communities and school districts, industries, would be one place. The other is in the key performance indicators. Key performance indicators could include outreach efforts, partnershiping with other agencies, business and industry. So there's multiple places that would be factored in, and then into the institutional objectives of the operational part, the how-to that would go down into the college level planning as well. Robert?
No, I think that's true. And what I also think is important is what you've just said. If that's reiterated to the people who are doing the educational master planning, they understand that is an element that the board or you would like to see addressed. But that can happen at that level.
Do you agree that the board, as representatives of the community, should be involved in that development, or should we just be an observer?
I think you need to be absolutely involved. It's just a matter of coming up with the process and the timing, and as we plan the strategic master planning update or rewrite. I have the board involved right at the front end to get their wishes as to what to be involved. But yes, you are the representatives of the community, and you've been elected to bring that voice there. So that's my opinion anyway. Trustee Woodrow.
The strategic master plan is the guiding document for the educational master plan. So, and that is where it is at the district level. I think that board involvement it should happen. It absolutely should happen. It should be a place where your voice is heard, and you're providing some guiding thoughts and principles to the people working on the strategic master plan.
Thank you.
Can I add, one of the other things that comes up for me in Trustee Yuen's your comments about not being involved previously is, well, you can't meet as a board necessarily as a whole unless you're doing an actual meeting. You could potentially engage at the college levels and attend some of the meetings, like the meaning making behind the mission that we did bring to you did go through all 4 campuses. Students were involved, classified professionals, faculty, and administrators, and was approved. It was approved, we just checked again, unanimously at PGC, right? So there was a robust process, but once again, you weren't involved, right? And so, and in the future, perhaps one of the things you could, say that you want to do is engage, as we're going through this in those kinds of ways, or one of you comes to one of the meetings at one of the colleges or something, or a couple of you or something like that, to stay engaged throughout.
Can we do our report with the slides?
I'm not sure that we need to go through so we prepared a slideshow which was about the process, which was what was on the agenda for the study session. But given the discussion, I'm not sure that we actually need to go through the history of it It's more, sounds like we're
It would
more
be
about,
helpful personally.
you think so?
Yes.
Let me ask President Reese, are you open to talking about the process that was engaged for the mission statement? Or maybe,
I'm going to give it to my trustees. I think
Okay.
it would be helpful. And of course, we have to be cognizant of the time. But if you
Yeah.
all think it'd be helpful, we could do it quickly. Maybe even just kind of macro points. But do I have any objections from any of the trustees? Okay. I don't see any hands. Let me know if I'm not seeing hands that are actually raised. Okay, let us do that. If you'd like to do that, Joseph. And then maybe while you're doing that, what I will say is that this very productive conversation, I think, shows that in the past, there hasn't been an engagement with the board. And I don't think that the board really has historically known what to do or their role within it. And that's why this is great, because we do have a role, what that role is, and to the extent that we should be engaged, I think, again, goes back to we're going to need guidance, and we're going to need policy revision. And we also would like to know what the best practices are across the state so that we help this go forward rather than hinder.
Okay, I have the presentation available, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everybody.
Thank you.
And I will start. If we could go to the next slide. This is just to review how we came about with the mission statement that came forward. And one of the things that was said initially this evening in the bullet points that were presented was accreditation and accountability was listed. And that's how this all started, because even though we were reviewed at the beginning of this month, each of the 4 colleges in the district office, you don't start at the last minute writing your institutional self-evaluation report. So we started even before 2018. And in that process, because Standard 1 is about the college mission, Standard 1, before you get to any of the other standards. And so that raised the issue of well, if we're reviewing the mission statement at the colleges, why aren't we reviewing the district one? And so Chancellor Laguerre put together a task force to do a review of the mission statement. And as I listened to this discussion tonight, it almost says to me he should have informed the board of that in his board report and kept the board up to date through board report. Board reports are essential. Now, this process involved over 150 people, classified faculty, students from student governments and student appointments, a significant number, and administrators, and it went for almost 2 years. The review was conducted through a shared governance process. And again, what that is saying is that all groups were represented. It wasn't done at the top level and everybody else just kind of said, oh, okay. And even the district office employees said, we want to do this too. And we would like to do it at the district office and not tell me I go over to Laney College to do this. So a district-wide survey was conducted, and from the things that had come from the colleges, we came up with 5 mission statements, and those were to be voted on. And then in the voting, one came out as the predominant one that people agreed with. So then it was brought to the Participatory Governance Council, and then it was recommended to the Chancellor for the board approval. And again, I don't know what that was like when it came to the board, but I continue to wonder how much was said to the board about the process and what was involved and how we came up with this. And one thing that was mentioned already before I turn it over to Dr. Vasconcelos is that we're using the CCLC subscription service for policies and procedures. And one of the things that CCLC even recommends is you might want to have a district mission statement that includes the 4 college mission statements and provides an overview that the district is 4 colleges in here. And I'll stop there and let Dr. Vasconcelos move on.
Can we go to the next slide, please? Oops, go back. So we covered this in December. I'm not sure that we need to go through this, but this was a timeline starting in fall 2018 to where it was actually approved and came for first review with the board in 2020. Let's go to the next slide because I'm aware of time right now. Thank you. So this is the mission statement that was approved by PGC on March 20th, 2020, after going through the college process, which Joseph laid out, everybody that was involved. There's 14 members on PGC, or there was at that time. 12 were present, and all who were present were involved in making some edits to the mission statement that came forward after the voting that occurred, and then unanimously voted on recommending that the chancellor, and this was Chancellor Stanback Stroud at the time, take it forward to the Board of Trustees. She then accepted it, and this is in the minutes for PGC, and was going to make the recommendation to the board without further edits. I did double check, and this is the same mission statement that came forward from Chancellor Stanback Stroud in May of 2020, and then again by Chancellor Walter last November as well. Once again, so we hear that the board wasn't involved, and absolutely, the need for involvement going forward. I think, when I've talked to Dr. Riggs and Dr. Griffin as well, it's where do we go with this, what we have right now, in light of the strategic planning update, and process that they're going to engage in over the next few months. We can end the slideshow. Thank you.
And what was the result of that conversation? I think that that's a very interesting point, and a very important point. So Dr. Riggs and Dr. Griffin, where do we go with the strategic planning, given that the mission statement did go through that whole process for seemingly, ostensibly 2 years? And it just seems like, what do we need to do? It was maybe a more direct ask.
My understanding is that the latter mission statement, the one that went through the 2-year process, was not approved by the board. Am I mistaken?
That's correct.
Correct.
So if that's correct, then your previous mission statement is the one that's in place. And so that would be the mission statement that you would be operating under at this time, unless you decided that you wanted to somehow or another approve the mission statement that was proposed to you by the the chancellor and the interim chancellor. So, but you do have a mission statement in place currently.
Yes, and that's what we're writing to. That will be in the updated strategic master plan, unless there's a change in this. What I'm hearing is that the board would like to have board members would like to have some input into shaping the mission statement. And again, a place where that could occur and logically would occur is in the larger, more robust strategic master planning process that I'm recommending you consider once you get your new permanent chancellor on board. People come back in the fall, and you turn a corner with this COVID thing, and but that's one that would involve the mission statement, vision, and then also robust involvement of the community and both the college or the district community colleges, and also your greater community.
Gonzalez, you want?
Thank you. I guess I want to come back to this content question because we've now been told yet again, there was a process that involved a lot of people in refashioning this mission statement. In that description, I still don't know, like, all right, so there were 5 statements that were put forward. 4 of them weren't accepted. What were those? What was in them? What was considered? What was thought to be important or not important? It's as though we keep getting hammered with, well, you've been presented with the mission statement. Why don't you vote on it? And I think the board has now said pretty definitively from the very first time we handed it back and said, we'd like more substantive engagement. And what we keep coming back with is, well, we went through a process. Won't you vote on this? So I'd like to be done with this part of the conversation and then reinvest in a process that would engage the intelligence of the board as a policy-making body. It seems to me that that is, in fact, our principal role is as a policy-making body, as an oversight body as well, but as representatives, as the elected representatives of our communities. I think our principal role is policymaking. I think that the appropriate way of doing that is, in fact, with the full engagement of people who study and work within the district. I think that that's all we're asking for. So if we can simply be done with this part of this, ask the administration to come back with a policy that will fully involve the board in substantive discussions, I would be happy to eventually get to approving a revised mission statement. I don't think there is any unwillingness on the part of any board member to engage in that process.
Let me just say, though, I mean, from the conversation tonight, it is very clear that that our board policy, our policies were ambiguous, and maybe the understanding of the board's role has been ambiguous and uncertain. What I do not want to do is discount the years of work getting to this point and the different constituencies and the number of people that did a lot of work. I don't want to discount that. And so I think what I have said a couple of times is we as a board did not know how to engage in this. We need guidance as to how to engage in this. And the work that you all did with this mission statement that is such important work. And I hear what you're saying, Trustee Gonzalez, and I've heard what the board has said too in the past. And that's why I look to Jim Riggs and Robert Griffin in terms of, I know that we have the old mission statement that we are working under. Is that where we are? Was there an ask tonight at all to go back to this new mission statement that we disapproved twice? Or are we, okay. So, and I see a shaking of the head, so I'm assuming that that was not an ask. Okay.
No, there's no action in this. This is just the conversation, and how to move forward.
And I think that there's a part of me that feels really quite terrible about this, because the constituencies, the district, the colleges, the people did so much work, and we did not engage the process because we didn't know that we were supposed to be engaged in the process. And that is not anybody else's fault, but whatever conversations didn't transpire between the board and the chancellors at those points in time. So I think that's all that I have to say. So where are we at this point? Where do we go? What's our step forward? What do we do? What are we doing? Can somebody clarify that?
Yeah, our purpose of coming here is to inform you, have this discussion. The first part, updating the strategic goals, having a discussion, try to focus where to take the mission, the statement, and then have the more further outlook where you need to go with a much more robust planning process. And what I would suggest you consider is the proposed mission statement could be a place to start that discussion in the long run. So, looking into the fall, that proposed mission statement, I think, is if you choose to accept it or to work with it, will still be as vibrant and valid in the fall as it is today.
And our message to the people in the planning process is the mission statement that exists currently approved by the board is the mission statement that we'll be operating under.
Yeah, for the short-term planning efforts that we're doing.
Good.
Thank you. And thank you, Joseph and Tina, for bringing that to the board, the history, because I think it was still important to discuss and talk about as well. Okay, we good?
Well, I really appreciate Dr. Riggs and Dr. Griffin and Dr. Vasconcelos and Dr. Belinsky, all of you for being here tonight and helping our district move forward with understanding what we might need to do in terms of policy modifications and how we can move forward to involve all the constituents and set up KPIs and so forth. So I think we accomplished the goal here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Riggs. Thank you, Dr. Griffin, and everybody else.
Thank you.
Great.
Pleasure. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. And apologies again for having you wait.
Thank you.
It's fun. All right. Good night.
Good night. Okay, so we do have a lot to mull over, a lot to talk about. Great study session. Let us do roll call at this point. Myeshia or Sasha, we have the fortunate pleasure of having two board clerks at the moment.
Okay. Student trustee Urani?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Pope?
Yep.
Trustee Bonilla?
We may have lost Trustee Bonilla. She wasn't
Okay.
feeling well.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan?
I'm right here.
And Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes, thank you.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Meeting is called to order at 7:28 p.m. President Rudy Besikov, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance as the flag is brought up on our
It would
screen?
be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United
of
States,
the United States of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And as always, as per usual, I will start. Can we actually enlarge that? My eyes are getting way old and I cannot even see. I have just said that in public. All right, thank you. Great. Our PCCD board statement of cooperation, as per usual, we're going to start off the meeting in this way. We have committed as a board to continue to work on trust in and among our members. Number 2, we agreed to listen and seek to understand others and opposing viewpoints with the expectation of good intentions and a deep commitment to the district students. Number 3, we commit to being prepared for each meeting and to work within our established communication protocols when we seek additional information. Members will review the agenda in advance of each meeting and adhere to board policy 2340 for adding items to the agenda. Number 4, we have reviewed the board's code of ethics and commit to reviewing it annually at our organizational meeting to remind ourselves of the behavior we are to exhibit and the guidelines we are to follow in our role. Number 5, if the code of ethics is violated, we commit to follow the process stated in the code and will first address concerns informally to settle disagreements one-on-one between and among members before moving to the formal process. Number 6, we agree that from time to time, the chair will remind members of appropriate behavior and may call for a recess or redirect members if they stray from the topic of discussion. Number 7, we collectively recognize that it is within the duties and authority of the chair to render decisions or take actions to keep our meetings on track in adherence of board policy. Number 8, we will strive to fulfill the vision we established for ourselves. And number 9, we will model the behavior we want others to exhibit. Thank you for posting that and putting that on the screen. And let us go to our next item, which is Vice President Gonzalez-Yuen, the report of action taken in closed session.
Thank you very much, Madam President. At tonight's closed session, the board voted on the following 2 items, public employee appointments. We approved the recommendation to correct the appointment term for the Dean of Enrollment Services at Merritt College on a motion by Trustee Withrow, seconded by President Napoli Abella Reese on a vote of 700, with all trustees in attendance and voting to affirm that recommendation. We also, as a board, voted to appoint Dr. Jeanette Jackson as the interim chancellor pending negotiations of an employment agreement on a motion by myself, seconded by Trustee Withrow, and that was a unanimous 7-0 vote. Madam President, that concludes the closed session readout for tonight.
Thank you for that. Let's go to 3.6, the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
So
So moved.
Trustee.
I'll second.
Trustee Delphine Polk as our first and Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen as our second. Okay. Trustee Jenkins, did you want to take an item out of the agenda? Out of order?
I want to pull 7.1 for discussion.
7.1. Okay. So let us pull 7.1. Do we need another motion since we've taken 7.1 out of consent calendar?
No, you do not. Trustee can pull from consent.
Thank you. Let's go to approval of the minutes, 3.7. Motion, please.
I believe we need a vote on the approval of the agenda.
Absolutely right. Roll
Thank
call,
you.
please. Thanks.
Student Trustee Urini,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla, absent. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen,
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you for that. Okay. Let's go to 3.7, approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow, or second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Urini,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla, absent. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen,
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 3.8, associated student government reports. Do we have any of our student leaders in the room?
Yes, we have Lauren Wallace, and I'll move her to panelist.
Hi, Lauren.
Hello. Excuse me. Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Good evening, Madam President and members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Lauren Wallace and I am a senator. I will be providing a report on the behalf of ASCOA. ASCOA presents an event. In solidarity with our Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters, ASCOA's Walk in Your Shoes will be canceled. Instead, we are encouraging students to attend and participate in an event titled Standing in Solidarity with Asian Pacific and Pacific Islander Communities, Building Community and Sharing Thoughts, that also takes place on Thursday, March 25th from 12 to 1 p.m. The Zoom link can be accessed via COA's Facebook page. All are welcome and encouraged to attend. The COA talent show, COVID Couldn't Keep Us Down, has been rescheduled for Thursday, April 22nd. We have 2 participants registered, and we are excited to have the opportunity to build community by sharing our talents. Please join us. The senators would like to host a guest lecture on the history of Cinco de Mayo. ASCOA is considering the following for potential guests: COA's Mexican and Latin American Studies professors, Professor Alex Zaragoza from UC Berkeley, and then Professor Carmen Martinez Calderon from UC Berkeley as well. COA senators are preparing to attend SSCCC's General Assembly from March 26th to March 28th. Senator Matthew Murrow has registered as COA's delegate. In an effort to encourage student participation, senators will be hosting the first Demystifying Student Government workshop during office hours on Wednesday. We will continue to host these workshops and promote them via social media, email blasts, and classroom announcements. For our elections, we do not currently have any eligible candidates for the upcoming student government elections. So the elections committee voted and approved hosting a new orientation to take place during the campaign period. This was approved by the Vice President of Student Services. And we, at the moment, have at least one person who's interested in being a write-in candidate. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, let's, I believe we have Liam Zhu in the room as well.
Thank you. Good evening, President Reese, members of the board, and guests. In the past 2 weeks, the students at BCC have organized and attended several events, namely a Codenames Game Night, 2 trivia events, with one specific to women's history and an open mic event. The ASBCC elections are also officially in the campaigning period, with all candidate statements and elections timeline available on our ASBCC webpage. And just last week, to stand with those who identify as AAPI in our Peralta community, the BCC Campus Life Office held a safe space in light of the recent tragedies. It was truly a wonderful event, and I am very, very grateful that I got to hear the experiences of our own BCC community members. It really made me think back to what a strange childhood I myself had. I, for the most part, have forgotten or suppressed the grief of struggling with an identity crisis as a 9-year-old first coming to America. And growing up as a Chinese and Japanese American, just how many rough and tumble scuffles and jokes that seemed like part of childhood actually contain some nuanced bigotry. What I believe, however, is that this is not innate in my peers, the kids around me, but part of the flawed education, which is why I'm proud to say that the students working with the Campus Life Office have put together a list of educational and actionable resources, which I'd like to share with everyone right now. Next up is, I just want to follow up with an update on our AC Transit Easy Pass referendum. So we have been in communications with Vice Chancellor Brown throughout the past months about the process. And essentially, as a council, we have concluded that a delay to our ASBCC election would not be wise due to the likely confusion it would cause for both candidates and the voters. So as a solution, we're currently discussing the viability of a special election for the referendum in the fall, of which we can currently work on a framework and draft for ASBCC next term to realize. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Liam. Do we have any more student leaders that are going to speak? Okay. All right, let's go to 3.9, the Peralta Classified Senate Report. Terrence, are you in the room?
I just made it so that he can speak.
Good evening. Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Good evening, President Reese, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Walters, presidents, and guests. Tonight we have two classified Senate campus reports. The first report comes from the Berkeley City College Classified Senate. Longtime employee of the Peralta Community College District, Loretta Newsom, retired after 46 years of service on March 15th, 2021. A wealth of knowledge and support for her fellow employees. We will miss her and wish her the best in retirement. President Garcia is working closely with the BCC Classified Senate and Academic Senate to ensure we are informed of any upcoming news on our safe return to campus. This topic is number one to BCC classified staff right now. Lastly, the BCC Classified Senate will be attending the 4Cs Classified Leadership Institute called the Redo Project. The Redo Project will focus on moving forward out of a year of uncertainty and what we learned about ourselves and staying connected while working off campus. The second report comes from the Merritt College Classified Senate. The Merritt College Classified Senate is working in collaboration with our administrative team and campus community to enhance training for classified employees by making video trainings accessible to all classifieds. Flex Day trainings provided to classifieds during our mid-semester Flex Day was greatly appreciated. But we would like to take it a step forward by loading the training we received on Flex Day into a centralized location upon the Merritt College website that classifieds can access at any time as a training reference to increase efficiency, productivity, and enhance the skill sets for new and existing classifieds. By doing this, onboarding training for new classifieds will be more effective and accessible by providing accounts payable training, requisition and budget transfer training, contract training, and more. Cross-training and refresher training is accessible to existing employees. Repetitive training of the same procedures during Flex Days will be minimized to leave room to focus on additional training and workshop opportunities for classifieds, and overall, provide an accessible online platform of professional development training modules that all classifieds can access at any time without having to wait for Flex Day to happen. We believe that this is the first step to creating better accessibility of professional development to all classifieds. On a point of personal privilege, I wanted to take a minute to speak again on the matter of classifieds employees returning to work. The Peralta Classified Senate continues to strongly support the district working with the two classified unions to come up with return to work protocols, procedures, and policies before classifieds return to work. That is the end of the campus reports. Thank you very much for your support of the Peralta Classified Senate.
Thank you, Terrence. Let's go to 3.10, the District Academic Senate Report. Donald Moore.
Good evening, presidents and guests. We had a great Flex Day activity this past Thursday, which was well attended. And again, this Flex Day focused on DEI activities, and they were well attended. As we continue at the colleges and at the district to focus on these concerns, I'm happy that the colleges and the district have come out strongly in support of our Asian brothers and sisters. I think that that's important, given we're here in Oakland and the East Bay and with our neighbors, and we know that there have been attacks here in Oakland as well against elderly Asians. So I think that it was appropriate, and I want to thank the presidents and everybody who have expressed concerns in those ways. I wanted to make mention of yesterday listening to State Chancellor Eloy Oakley and Vice Chancellor Merritt talking about, I guess, as they viewed the problem colleges or districts, CCSF and Peralta. And in the discussion, it was interesting because, one, they acknowledged that Peralta has come really far in terms of the finances and cleaning up the finances and all of the other issues that were addressed. And I think our accreditation visit in write-up also speaks to that. Yes, we have more to go, but I know that we have been working diligently at it for the last 4 years. And I wanted to speak to the fact that I couldn't tell whether or not, I think this was Navarrete who was saying something about people, these colleges or districts not following their 5-year plan or the agreements that they were making with the state chancellor's office. And I was surprised to hear that. I don't know about CCSF, their agreements with the state chancellor's office, but I know that with ours, we spent over 1.5 years, or actually 6 months, dealing with this 5-year plan, and we implemented the 5-year plan. We did a cost savings of I forget, $4 million or something like that in terms of salary savings. We did all of that to address the problems that we were having in terms of fiscal imbalance. And all of the work that everybody has done have been directed towards that 5-year plan. So I was very disappointed in hearing that, and it's either factual or not. And my hope is that the leadership here in Peralta will respond to that and to ensure to the state chancellor's office that no, we have been adhering to those tenets of what we try to do. The number one being our reserve. We are in excess of 10% right now. So all of that, I think, is something that that state chancellor should celebrate. I was particularly concerned when Navarrete was talking about some innovation, and she indicated that they were not just looking at a super trustee, but that they were looking at a team of super trustees. And that this team will consist of people who have expertise in a variety of different areas. And I remind myself that the law itself talks about fiscal reasons why the state chancellor's office will take over a district. So I get really disappointed when I hear that because I really question what they're really trying to do. However, one thing I do know is that we need to make sure we're communicating to people that we are addressing the concerns, whether they be the accreditation concerns or the state chancellor's concerns, because I think if we do the work, but maybe we're not communicating it. So I look forward to seeing and working with the state chancellor's office as we move forward. But I would like for everybody to wait and see what the accreditation commission does, and what the teams are going to write up, and to ensure that those things are being resolved in some kind of way. So I look forward to seeing our enrollments turn around, and I know that people are making plans to try to address those. So I look forward to all of those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donald. All right, let's move on to 3.11, public communication. I've lost my wingman. He is not here. So I am going to turn the public communication speakers to either Board Clerk Sasha or Board Clerk Myeshia, whomever.
I can go ahead and take care of that. Anybody that's an attendee, if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hands, and then I will just go down one by one. And please remember, you have a 3-minute time on your questions or comments. Okay, I will start with we've got Jennifer Shinosky. I'm going to move her over. Okay. Jennifer, you're set to go.
Hi, good evening. I think you can hear me. Sasha, welcome. We haven't been introduced, so I presume you're our new board clerk in training. So
that is correct.
Peralta, and thank you for your work. All right, that doesn't count for my 3 minutes. Are you ready? All right.
Yes.
So I'd like to start out tonight by thanking the board for their consideration of the OEA resolution on reparations for Black students in Oakland. I hope that our endorsement will help it to be passed tomorrow night at the OUSD board meeting, and that this resolution will serve as an example that we can follow within Peralta. I had a really hard time figuring out what I wanted to say tonight. We're in a very difficult phase of our work here as educators within Peralta. It'd be easy for me to stand here tonight and point fingers and go after particular people for putting us in the situation we find ourselves in. But I don't think it's productive for me to do that. I don't think it's productive for me, for you, or for our students. So instead, I'm going to simply talk about faculty and my role as an advocate for faculty. I am the president of the Peralta Federation of Teachers. I am unapologetic about the work I do with PFT members to advocate for faculty. We do this work by working on the campaigns of people we believe in. We do this by negotiating contracts that treat all faculty fairly. We do this by ensuring that the financial picture of the district puts students, not administration, first. I'm proud of the work that PFT has done over the last several years. We're an organizing union with a robust, knowledgeable, strong voice that's centered on the work that we've chosen for our careers, for our lives, that of serving our students in our offices, libraries, and classrooms. We talk here a lot about students. We talk about them at these meetings and at meetings in Sacramento, but faculty do not talk about students. We work with students. We work next to students and we work with students. I, like my PFT brothers and sisters, came to this work to be with students every single day. I hope this board keeps in mind at all times and with all decisions that Peralta is an educational institution. We're here to educate students, and faculty do that work first and foremost. You are not here without us, and we are not here without students. We cannot administrate ourselves out of problems. We can only join together with all of our understanding, education, and expertise to work together to ensure that the education of our students always comes first, that instruction and service to students always comes first.
20 seconds.
And I hope that you also remember that as leaders, you are only as strong as the connection you have to the community that you serve, as Bill Withrow said earlier tonight. It's a hard thing to remember, but it's vital. You serve with us, and together we can be stronger. I'd like to close by thanking our interim chancellor, Carla Walter. If past experience is any indication, your resignation may mean that you're gone before we have the opportunity to give you a proper send-off. And so I'd like to take just one moment to thank you. Thank you for stepping in without notice to lead a district you barely knew. Thank you for listening to faculty and students and leading from a place that put education first. I've never met you in person, but I'm so grateful to have worked beside you over the last several months. You're appreciated, and I wish we'd been good enough to keep you. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have John Beam. John, you are good to go. You are muted.
Thank you. So I come before the board again, and I'm coming to speak to you all about our student athletes again. We're back, we're working out, we're doing well, but we're ready to compete. And that means we have to test 100% of our athletes weekly. We have set our protocols up that were accepted by Alameda County to compete, public health, but in our protocols, we have 3 times a week testing. I found testing. We worked together with the district to bring Curative on in January. For whatever reason, it was asked to leave after 10 days. Now we've secured testing again through another company, free for our students, only for our students at Laney. And it's been sitting in a queue or floating around the district for 2 weeks. I know that Rudy and Vicky and the people at Laney have signed off and got most every signature, but it's still sitting there. Until we can get that, we cannot compete. We talk about students first. Let me give you a breakdown. I did this for Vicky, our VP, asked me, what is our graduation rate? And I said, well, let's find out over 5 years. Our overall graduation rate, 5 years for 7 sports, was 84%. Match that to any other group in the state. Football was 91%. Baseball, 85, women's basketball, 55, swim and aquatics, 52, track, 88, cross country, 100%. These are the kids that have been told they don't belong in college. These are the most unrepresented population that we have in our cities. And yet they come every day and all they ask is for you to sign a piece of paper that will allow them to come back and to compete. Last spring, all our athletes after the start of the season were told to go home. It was over. It is so important to get these young men and women back competing. They've been training. They've been following all the protocols. All it takes now is one signature. I'm assuming no one will even say what it is. It's a time for us to really, truly put your mouth where it needs to be. Don't talk about it. Sign the paper so we can get our student athletes back to compete. I'm just so frustrated. And I have to keep telling the kids that we're trying, but trying is not enough. We don't tell the kid, we tell them to try in class, but we got to support it. So now support it. The kids have done what they're supposed to do. They're graduating and transferring. Nobody else does that, guys. So reward them by simply finishing up the last step that it takes.
20 seconds.
And I can't tell you what the step is. Thank you very much. And remember why we're here. It's for our students. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have Jeffrey Senseri. Okay, Jeffrey, you have been moved over to panelist.
And I turned off the mute button. Great. Hello. I want to start by saying congratulations to the faculty who were granted tenure at the last board meeting. Tenure was something that these faculty worked hard for, convening several times a semester for 4 years with experienced faculty for the sake of getting better at reaching our students. Because trustees all throughout California, and Peralta is no exception, realized that it was cheaper to exploit part-time faculty because we love our students, the chances of getting a full-time job is at an all-time low. And those lucky enough to get that position dedicate their lives to doing right by their students. That's why I was both horrified and ashamed that trustees Withrow and Handy decided to take this special moment that our faculty earned, this moment that many bring their families to witness, and turn it into a political football. Not only that, I was ashamed but not all that surprised to find that their comments about finances and the budget in relation to our faculty demonstrated a near criminal misapprehension of the current situation in which the district finds itself. I mean, all of the state of California voted on Propositions 30 and 55. How is it that a trustee with all the responsibilities that comes with it not understand what that is? I cringe when Trustee Handy says that the duty of the board is fiduciary, especially when a mere 30 minutes of campaign finance and board research makes me wonder why she hasn't been in front of a grand jury yet. Likewise, all I had to do was look back 16 years of investment decisions by the board and wonder whether the phrase finance guy applies to the finances of some currency other than dollars and cents, or if finance guy meant something different during the Cold War. Nor am I happy with the other experienced members of the board who consistently choose to trust administrators who have been at Peralta for only a month and 15 minutes over faculty who have been here for decades. I know that the district office managers are begging you to trust them because they're experts and they make $200K a year, but I would urge you to keep in mind that none of them are going to be here in 5 years, and probably for a reason. In fact, I'm already writing what I'm going to say at that board meeting when it happens, but I suspect by then, only 2 or 3 of you will be here. My point is, don't use faculty and students for your games. And if you have anything at all to say to me, you know where to find me. I'll be teaching all the students you say you care so much about, but don't even know. That's all. Thank you.
And that is all the public comments we have. Oh, I take that back. We have an Laney Gassis. Laney, you've been promoted to panelist.
Okay, I've unmuted myself. Good evening, President Reese, Chancellor Walter, and trustees. My name is Laney Gastis, and I am the proud advisor to Peralta's only student-run publication, The Citizen, and Faculty Senate President at Laney College. I want to say a few comments tonight about the importance of information and free speech. Thank you, Chancellor Walter and trustees, for agreeing to restore complete access to the FAS listserv. It is imperative that we, as an educational institution, show that we value free thought and the open exchange of ideas, that we have the humility to engage transparently with criticism as we stay informed. Speaking of criticism, I am proud to announce once again that our newsroom continues to garner praise both locally and statewide, winning several awards this past weekend at the Journalism Association of Community Colleges Conference. It would have been truly, truly heartwarming if our district administration reached out to share in the students' good news. I must admit that it is strange to me that district administrators aren't more vocal in realizing and applauding the students' dedication and talent, uplifting them in the same way legendary industry professionals and our state chancellor have. Uplifting students is one of the most important things an educator can do. Alas, journalists are watchdogs. We're not cheerleaders. Journalists write news and not newsletters. To those who engage with our newsroom, engage with hardworking students, and realize the value of a free press, thank you for your support. The Citizen is committed to our community, and I am committed to my students. Thank you very much.
Any other attendees have any public comment? We have no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to 3.12, Chancellor's reports.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, trustees, President Reese, members of our community, and all of the people who are listening. Normally, you know, I do the president's reports, and I am going to do that. I'm going to go in my normal order. But before I do that, I really want to just spend a few minutes thanking Myeshia Jamison for her contribution to our district since, what was it? I don't know, October? I'm just going to take the liberty. Yes, let's give her a hand. And you can thumb up, your reaction or whatever if you can. I don't know if you can or not. But let me just say that Myeshia Jamison, she came in, she stepped in. There was nobody in the chancellor's office. She had new trustees to train. We had retreats to give. We had papers to sign. And, we were working remotely. We couldn't, it was like, wow, amazing.
Fun stuff.
And then on top of that, she started helping run the participatory governance meetings. I'm just telling you like it is, and she would answer emails, she would set up, meetings, she would populate committees. And then, as if it wasn't bad enough, she served on the search committees to help us with finding a new board clerk, who I'm going to introduce in a minute. But then she trains the new board clerk, right? So Myeshia, listen, I just want you to know how grateful I am for everything you've done for our district. And I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being there with us, for being completely professional, never missing a beat, and just really, really bringing it on. It is amazing. And we are going to miss you tremendously. Now, I know they're going to love you back at Laney, but we know where you live. We're going to come get you when we need you. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you guys for having me. It's been fun and a learning experience.
Very cool.
Thank
and then we have Sasha Amiri, who just began with us. Sasha, you can raise your hand. Everybody knows who you are now. But she's been with us now for almost a month. And so she's gone through the paces. She's been working closely with Myeshia and Mark Johnson and Royal and other people in the district, Roy Roberts, our chief of staff. And Sasha comes to us, as you know, she's a board clerk. She's a notary public. She's got extensive experience working with boards. And we're just thrilled to have you with us. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And if we were in a public space, I would be giving presents and stuff like that, elbow bumps or whatever. But so thank you so much. And with that, now I will turn it over to our president, Dr. Angelica Garcia from Berkeley City College.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walter. Good evening, members of the Board of Trustees, colleagues, community members. I have a few comments that I want to provide in my oral report in addition to the written news for the board report. The first is I do want to begin by anchoring my comments in the deep connection and solidarity with the Asian American Pacific Islander community. As our ASBCC President Liam Zhu shared, BCC held a community gathering last Friday during our community hour in response to the hate and violence being perpetrated upon the AAPI community. What I really am proud to share is that community attendance was strong and the space served to be both healing and a space for action. And I have learned and was deeply touched that we had several BCC community members sign up to become patrol volunteers or escorts throughout the East Bay AAPI community, especially for elderly and women who often are the victims of really aggressive attacks. So my commendation to the ASBCC students, student life and campus activities for pulling that together and for the way that our community showed up. On the same theme, I want to take an opportunity to invite everyone who is viewing this board meeting to join this Saturday, March 27th from 1 to 3 p.m. for the Silence is Violence, Stop AAPI Hate. This event this weekend is near and dear to my heart as a co-founder and executive board member of Colegas, the community college Organización de Latinx Advocacy and Guidance for Success. We have formed a coalition with APAHI, which is Asian Pacific Americans in Higher Education, and AMEND, the African American Male Education Network and Development. And so this coalition of these three large organizations are coming together and have been for the past year around equity and racial justice. And this weekend's event, which I've learned earlier today, we're already at about 900 registrants, is showing up for our AAPI community. So I look forward to seeing you there, and I'll drop information in the chat a little bit later. I also want to take a moment to share that in a future board meeting, we're going to see the CCAP agreements coming forth on dual enrollment. So it's no mystery, it's no surprise that BCC, along with my sister colleges and throughout the district, we're all looking to do our part to address issues of enrollment management, to really look at what we need to do to support not only access to our colleges, but also the support to retain and for students to persist all the way to completion. And one of those strategies for BCC has been working in partnership with our local K through 12 districts to increase our dual enrollment, which I'm pleased to share that we continue to see growth in that particular area. So our first CCAP agreement is going to be coming through from Emeryville. And what I want to note about this is that the curriculum development within these CCAPs has really been intentional. It's been explicit. The focus is to provide access to students, our high school students, to and through educational programming that might lead to a pathway for completion upon their high school graduation. So I'm really proud of the work that faculty, academic deans, instruction, and the collaboration truly of instruction and student services. I also want to share that we, along with the other colleges, had a remarkable Flex Day last week. It was vibrant, it was alive, and they're just rich development opportunities. I am so proud of the work that Berkeley City College is doing to continue to provide high quality teaching and learning inside and outside of the classroom. So faculty had the opportunity to engage in equity-minded lesson planning, and I had the chance to listen to some phenomenal idea sharing that faculty were doing in that session, as well as student services hosting a professional development opportunity where over 50 attendees engaged in a session called Interrogating, and I'm looking at this one, Interrogating Practices to Improve the Student Experience and Success, Becoming Student-Centered, Student-Ready, and Equity-Focused. And my favorite part about that activity is that students were a part of that development, and they were threaded throughout the experiences and gave our colleagues some wonderful feedback and ideas about how we can continue to serve students. Because of course we are here for the students. And my next announcement is also in the news for the board, but I'd like to elevate it here, is that our very own Berkeley City College student, Nadine Ordaz, earned one of 104 community college spots from across the nation for the NASA Community College Aerospace Scholars Program. So she participated in this 9-day experience. And where I want to leave comments related to this is that it was her experience with Dr. Mark Rinker in a linear algebra class in fall 2020 that sparked in her the interest to pursue this, that supported her to have the confidence to apply, and is just a constant reminder to us that we touch the lives of students in sometimes the smallest of ways. And in that teaching space, Nadine certainly got the support to pursue this. So we're very proud of her representation, not just of BCC, but of our broader Peralta Community College District. And as Terrence shared earlier, I do want to close my comments with a recognition of Miss Loretta. I know it's Loretta Newsom, but 46 years of service is a long time. 46 years of connecting with students and their families and the communities is a long time. And so it's always bittersweet when you want to wish your colleague well, while also acknowledging that she will be missed, and her absence when we do get to return to campus will be missed. And in my comments to her, it feels so weird to say goodbye to someone that I've not yet had the pleasure to share space with. So I have vowed that I am going to connect with her post-COVID so that she and I can have lunch or a coffee, and I too can share the warmth that Miss Loretta has shared with BCC. So with that, I will conclude my remarks for this evening on behalf of Berkeley City College. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Dr. Nathaniel Jones, III from the College of Alameda, please.
Okay, good evening, President Reese, trustees, Chancellor Walter, colleagues, and guests. I am pleased to provide a brief report on the College of Alameda's work in supporting our diverse student body. At the College of Alameda, fostering an inclusive and welcoming learning environment is one of our highest institutional priorities because it reflects our cherished and deeply held value of diversity, equity, and social justice. Because of these values, we issued a statement denouncing racism and violence against our Asian American Pacific Island community in the wake of the horrific shooting that occurred in Atlanta, Georgia this past Tuesday. We expressed our support and solidarity and affirmed our commitment to diversity, equity, and social justice. We also shared resources that are available to students, faculty, and staff to help deal with this horrific event. Our Accesso program serves and supports Latinx students attaining a certificate, degree, or transfer within 3 years. The Accesso program is open to all students. Our Accesso students recently shared their experience with the program and its impact on their lives. Students reported receiving encouragement, motivation, support, and help. They also communicated feeling loved, seen, and being part of a family. Similarly, our Puente students work closely with their counselors, English instructors, and mentors to prepare for transfer to a 4-year college or university. These students express similar experiences and impacts. College of Alameda, Umoja, and Accesso programs have partnered with financial literacy expert Jason Matthews of Matthews Financial and Insurance Solutions to present a series of virtual workshops designed to familiarize students with practical strategies for budgeting, savings, credit, building and repairing credit, and investing. The first workshop, Living Beyond the Next Paycheck, Developing Strategies for Budgeting and Saving, was offered on Thursday, March the 11th. Other workshops included Credit 101, What is it? How do you build and repair it? Investing for Beginners, Myths and Misconceptions will follow over the next few months. Our disability support program and services is changing its name to Student Accessibility Services to better reflect the services that we provide to our students, but express it in a more asset-minded language. Our professional staff work with each student to provide accommodations that ensure equal access to all academic programs and to promote students' independence so they may realize their academic potential and reach their goals. Several College of Alameda faculty and staff attended the Alliance for Hispanic Serving Institution Educators conference this past week. ASI aimed to strengthen practices in institutions of higher learning to ensure that Latinx students thrive academically, professionally, and personally. The practitioners the conference featured an impressive panel of educators, thought leaders, and practitioners from diverse fields and backgrounds. Topics included faculty knowledge and skills for teaching minoritized students, the effects of AB 705 on equitable student and Latinx students in transfer level math and English, innovation, cultural responsive engagement in STEM, as well as other really important topics. Following the conference, our director of Hispanic Serving Institution Grant and the Accesso and Puente program, Mr. Lira convened a meeting of our faculty and staff to reflect on what we learned and to develop actionable goals that would move our college towards achieving the Seal for Excellencia, which is recognized in colleges and universities for institutional serving Latinx students and to demonstrate positive student outcome. Lastly, the College of Alameda will take part in a community service survey for student engagement, also known as SESI. We'll deploy this survey this week. It's a nationalized survey to survey students and was developed by the University of Texas at Austin. The service is designed to gauge student college experiences regarding classroom instruction, their relationship with faculty and counselors, as well as the college support for their learning. The survey will help us to better understand our students' experience so that we can serve them more effectively in the future. This concludes my report, and I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. And now we will go with Dr. Rudy Besikov, President of Laney College.
Good evening, Chancellor, members of the board, and colleagues in education and community partners. Tonight, my report is really about coming together and just have some wonderful things to share. First of all, on March 11th, representatives from Laney College, along with others, representatives from the other Peralta colleges, met with 9 area high schools to collaborate on things such as student support, outreach, recruitment, and enrollment. Really had a chance to come together, learn about each other's systems, the K-12 and the community college, and about student support, had an opportunity to network and build some relationships, and also identified some next steps for graduating seniors. Certainly this is a buildup and something as we move toward seeing more of our students in OUSD transition and become students at Laney and Peralta. You know, that's a nice description, I guess, and one of those things where I wish I had been there. But guess what? I actually did get a ticket to come to something just like that. I was so thrilled today to attend the Pacific Islander Icuna Laney College collaboration. The Icuna Group is a local community organization that supports Pacific Islander students. Specifically at Laney College, they support the students in the Icuna Student Club. The Pacific Islander Club. And today was just an awesome event. In addition to the folks that lead that group, OUSD's Asian Pacific Islander Student Achievement Program, they have representatives there. And from Laney, we were very well represented as we welcomed prospective students in areas including counseling, enrollment services, our career center, CTE faculty member Sapo Su in our HVAC environmental control technology also came and spoke about the experience of studying in that program. And we were also privileged to have financial aid and outreach in attendance as well. And just want to thank Minerva Perez for putting that together, as well as all the great colleagues at Laney. And it was something that was really awesome. Speaking of awesome things and coordinating efforts, I want to give a shout out to Marla Leach and Felipe Wilson, as well as all of the presenters and all those who made time, classified professionals, faculty, administrators at Laney College Flex Day. I think it was a great moment to come together. And one of the things that we did talk about, of course, was the recent news of the violence to our API community. And sometimes it's an awesome thing to see people come together. Through the conversations we had and that continued over email, we actually came together. It was all of us that put forward college and community resources. And under the leadership of our folks in student services, especially Atia Rashada, we actually put together, we updated our campus resource guide. And it is now a campus and community resource guide with a number of resources that are out there to help and support students, especially during this time. And really throughout this, I think 2 messages came across. At Laney College, we absolutely condemn racism, violence, and hatred toward all of our great communities in Oakland. And right now, of course, we are mindful of our API community. We also affirm that Laney remains committed to providing a welcoming, empowering, learning and working environment that celebrates the diversity and inclusivity that defines us. And really just the work that came forward, I can't stress this enough. It really came out in some great messaging that really was a collaborative product. First to our students, then to our employees, and then finally, and I know I brought these groups to the board, the more than 25 API business and community leaders and leadership entities. We reached out to them to say that we supported and got responses from groups such as the Oakland Chinatown Chamber of Commerce. So this really is a time and a report about coming together, and I just wanted to take a few minutes tonight and share that with everyone. This concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Besikov. And then we'll turn to Dr. David Johnson, president of Merritt College.
Thank you, thank you. So good evening, President Napoli and Bella Reese, Board of Trustee members, Chancellor, colleagues, students, and community members. I am pleased to report that Merritt College is nearing the completion of the hiring process for our Vice President of Administrative Services position. Now, given the ACCJC feedback we received regarding the absence of a Chief Financial Officer at the Vice President level and the concerns that the peer review team noted regarding issues of fiscal management in Standard 3, finalizing the screening process in the next few weeks, I believe is critical to getting us to where we need to be. So to that end, I want to personally thank President Tom Rembarger and our Academic Senate, as well as President Tashetta Henry and our Classified Senate for formally endorsing the Vice President of Administrative Services position. Now, we expect that the new hire will make an immediate impact in the areas of budget development, fiscal oversight, facilities operations, enterprise services, campus safety, and IT. And we anticipate bringing this position to the Board of Trustees for your consideration at the April 27th meeting. Next item, the National Association of Student Financial Aid Officers, or NASFA, recently ran a story on our very own Ernesto Neri, who serves as the Director of Financial Aid for Merritt College. At the beginning of this academic year, Ernesto was one of only 6 individuals nationwide to be selected for the NASFA Diversity Leadership Program. So NASFA commended his passion for leadership and mentoring, and that was a commitment that was forged when he was an undergraduate student. And at that time, Ernesto saw firsthand the complex system that students were forced to navigate to pay for college. And it was a result of that experience that he wanted to ensure that, in his words, students feel welcomed at our college, are aware of financial aid opportunities available to them, and have access to apply and receive institutional, state, and federal aid, regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic background, or identity. So congratulations, Ernesto, and keep up the amazing work. And I just want to take a moment, speaking of work that needs to be applauded, I wanted to express my appreciation for our colleagues in student services right now, who are working very hard, and they do it without fanfare most of the time. They're doing it to support our students during this very challenging period. Our student services team members, when you think about it, they're frequently encountering and engaging students when these students are at their most vulnerable point. So I think it's important that we recognize how their commitment and expertise enable our students to manage their affairs outside of the classroom so that they can be more successful in their classes. So at Merritt College, I just wanted to note that our folks are working wonders in financial aid, A&R, counseling, FYE and Sankofa, Next Up, EOPS, student activities and campus life. I know I'm probably gonna leave someone out, CARE, CalWorks, athletics, outreach and orientation, and health services, as well as SAS too, can't leave out SAS. So I salute and thank you all. And finally, just in closing, I just want to echo some of the sentiments that were already expressed in terms of solidarity with our Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. I think that the crimes that have been perpetrated, here in our community, in Atlanta, and across this nation really underscore the need for us to not only express our full-throated condemnation of hatred, intolerance, and xenophobia, but also take steps to actively confront it. It's just not enough to say thoughts and prayers. We need to actually do something about it. And what that means is, in my view, not abiding bigoted sentiments, even when they come from our own families and peer groups. As I've often said, it's not okay to racialize the violence when it happens to us and then rationalize it when it happens to someone else. We need to speak out and stand up for each other when someone's being racially assailed, and we need to remember our common humanity as we support each other in this process of collective healing. So that's my report for the evening. You all be safe and be well.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I just want to add a few things here to the Chancellor's reports, and then we'll leave open for questions. First of all, I just want everyone, particularly Classified Senate Terrence, for your comments regarding the return to work protocols. And once again, I want to voice to this community that we are in the process of establishing those. We are reconvening this week our Emergency Operations Center and the Chancellor's Task Force on Public Health Emergencies. And at that time, we'll begin looking at vaccination policies and kind of putting together the process through which that'll flow through our shared governance groups on campus and through the district and up through the board. And so I just want everyone to know that it's there are many, many steps that we need to go through, and we are working on them. As far as the equipment and making sure that we have the facilities that we need and all of the partitions and barriers and all the other pieces of equipment that are necessary to keep everyone safe, that is in process as well. At this point in time, we are working remotely, and so we're grateful that we have this time. But I want to assure everyone in the community that we are moving forward in the direction and make sure that everyone is safe if and when the board determines that we will be coming back to work in physical space. And having said that, I also want to briefly mention that the Ingenesis people have been working with us. There have been some glitches that we are trying to iron out, but we're also very mindful that through our colleague Etheria Smith, we're looking at ways to engage our students in the screening process so that we can transition when the time comes when there are more people coming to our facilities and who might need screening. And then I would just like to add the final note here regarding testing for our athletes. We realize that's very important. That agreement has been signed. I don't know, maybe the message hasn't gotten through, because I will acknowledge Coach Beam's point that things are bureaucratic in our district. We're working on trying to shorten some of those processes as well, but we have approved that agreement to move forward for testing athletes. With that having been said, again, I just want to thank everyone here and the presidents for their reports, and I'll turn it back to you, President Reese, to see if there are any questions from the trustees.
Thank you for that, Chancellor. Do we have any questions? Are there any trustees that have questions or comments for the presidents and or the Chancellor?
President Reese, I have a question.
Yes, trustee.
Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor Walter. I have some more questions about the Ingenesis report, Ingenesis contract. Are you able at this time to give any more details as to the performance of that contract? Heard from a number of the people in the community that the screenings aren't necessarily happening in the way that they should be happening, specifically at some of the campuses. So can you speak more to in detail about the performance of that contract?
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. No, at this time, I really can't. And so if you have information that you could forward to me, that would be really helpful. And then we can take a look at it internally and see what perhaps we need to address.
So Trustee Jenkins, I think if you could send that, that would be great. And then if you could, Chancellor Walter, come back to the board and let us know what the situation or performance or response to Trustee Jenkins would be at a board meeting, that would be appreciated and fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Question.
Trustee Handy?
Wasn't that already submitted for this agenda? The questions for this on In Genesis?
What I had submitted to the Chancellor was a performance update. And so maybe the specificity of maybe what has been heard on the ground level could be given to Dr. Walter or myself, and to Dr. Walter, so that if there's specific information that we need, it could be responded to.
Yeah, I'd like to know how it's working, how many people are actually working. I'm hearing things that make me very uncomfortable, and the board should be updated on that. That was the point of the request. So an update means, is it working? How many people are there? How many people are being tested? Are people showing up? You know, all of that. It's not a real hard piece.
Okay, so then what we'll do, Dr. Walter, now you have a few pieces of information that we'd like specific input or feedback to, and if you could come back to the next board meeting, or even if you have the information beforehand, and then you could send it as an update to the trustees. Both would be good, but instead of waiting 2 weeks, I think Trustee Jenkins would probably like the response maybe to all board members beforehand. We'd appreciate that. Thank you, Chancellor. Trustee Withrow, I'm not sure if you had a question. I can't tell. Okay, all right. Let's move on then. Again, presidents, thank you so much for your reports. It is so incredible. I know that President Bonilla had said this in the past, but I have to reiterate what she said. It is so hard to believe that we are not at the district, that you are not at the colleges, that we are in COVID because of all the things that are happening. It's amazing work. And I continue to applaud your leadership, the faculty, the students, all the individuals working, the administration, all the individuals working in the colleges. It's fantastic to hear and very refreshing. Thank you. Let's move to the consent calendar. Can I have a motion for the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Trustee Withrow.
Second.
Okay. And let us do a roll call.
Student Trustee Urani?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla? Absent. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Absent. Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that. Let's go to, I believe, 7.1 is the item pulled out of the consent calendar. Trustee Jenkins?
Okay, so I have a number of concerns with this item. So the elevator in question has been flagged by the state of California since March of 2020. We're just now addressing it, yet we're giving what looks to be a no
I
bid.
came back in and I am here. My vote is yes.
For what? Your vote is yes. For what?
Consent calendar?
I'm sorry,
Yes,
Nikki.
he was marked absent. He's here.
Okay, for the last vote. Do you have that, Sasha? Board clerk, thank you. Okay, welcome back, Nikki. Trustee Jenkins, apologies. Go for it.
No worries. So it looks like we're giving a no bid contract to a company that's not based here in our service area. And so I want to know, if the elevator's been tagged since 2020, why is it that we're just now addressing it? And on top of that, why aren't we going out to bid for it?
Chancellor?
I'm gonna ask Dr. Besikov to talk about this situation.
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and give some background on the elevators and just provide some information on this. So currently, this elevator is a life safety issue. I mean, it's one of those things that happens. It's the issue is it's a series of elevator jacks that's needed replacement, and the main reason is the age of the systems. And quite frankly, with it's kind of the latest in a series, Trustee Jenkins. The first one was the front elevator in our student center, which accesses the bookstore and then goes all the way up to the 4th floor, which is our students, a lot of our student services organizations, our student clubs, and things like that. The second one in the queue with this was our theater, which had some ADA issues needing to be addressed with the elevator. And then, so this was actually tabbed and scheduled for work to be done. The issue was, though, that just with some of the leadership transition we've had, and then also with COVID, that essentially ended up delaying the start of work. Right now, it is a current issue. The elevator is not safe to use, and the issue now is we have students. Our culinary arts program is actually, in session, and we have our labs going. Plus, we've begun some of the cooking for food distribution as well. And certainly having access to use those elevators would make it would help in a great deal. The actual project is part of the bond. That's another piece of information that might be helpful. And the company Kone has actually done 3 other jack replacements. And in the case of our elevators, a lot of them are just very old, and they have parts that need to be essentially be refabricated. So that's some of the background on this, and I hope that's helpful. But so anyway, I think that has some other things. And then the other with the elevator house service and its current issue, we also have just with water, we have an issue of flooding. So there needs to actually be a special lining within the elevator just to make that safe. The contract actually goes back to 2018 by the company, which is Kone, or Kone, K-O-N-E. So that's the information I have at this point, and I hope it at least in part addresses the questions that you have. It is a critical item, and it's not something that, how can I say it? It does have history before 2020.
So I guess my question, one of my questions is, why is it that we're going no bid on this when we have companies that are local? And then second, President, it is a critical issue, and I'm disappointed that this went in consent and not open for discussion with the rest of the items.
Okay, message is understood. Again, this project again is one that was a continuation going back to even before COVID. So that really the dating on it, it's an older item that had been out there from beyond this most recent presentation of the board agenda. But your point on it needing to be for discussion is well taken.
Trustee Handy, but maybe one other item is that the elevators themselves are Kone elevators, right? And the company that is fixing this is also Kone, right? Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Right. So it's based in Illinois, and yes, we have companies here, except the elevator brand itself is the very company that is based in Illinois.
So I'll follow up on that. So all of the elevators are Kone elevators, and is Kone the only company that is able to do repairs on their elevators?
Dr. Jones III just was shaking, was saying, nodding.
Yes, I think so. There's proprietary equipment and things like that, there's only certain ones that are limited to being able to access equipment to do it, and will provide the the technical expertise to service certain ones. That's why that becomes very, very complicated contracting, because not all of the equipment can be worked on by any particular service vendor. It's very unique that one can actually work on the equipment of another vendor.
And Trustee Jenkins, I've been here since 2018, and this, like I said, not our first elevator repair. And it has, as Dr. Jones has said, it's consistently been Coney.
Do you have any more questions, Trustee Jenkins? Or maybe
That's it.
Trustee Handy? Thank you for that.
Yeah, I do have a bit of history on this. So there's quite a few things on there, but one, this contract has been completed. I mean, this contract is actually one that's been sitting for a year under two previous people who are no longer with us that did not move it forward. Acting Vice Chancellor Smith was able to clear up the challenges we had with billing and not payment and things. So that's what has allowed this to be brought forward at this time. And we're grateful that we've cleared up the relationship. That being said, I have a serious issue with all of the elevator companies. It seems to be, I'm hearing that it's not proprietary, that other people can work on it. My real serious issue that I brought up for every time it comes up to renew contracts with these is that these are companies, the elevator union as well, is a company that does not have minorities and females working for them. And this has not changed in the entire time I've been here. The union is like an exclusive club that you don't get to get into. And it's very troubling for me that we are forced with a limited amount of people that we can work with, and no real change has happened. It's a very well-paying job. Our students would love to have that. I personally observed an experience of a young man who was actually going in for an internship with the elevator unions, and I saw what had happened, and it was pretty crushing. And Barry Lubovisky, who was at the time head of building trades, has often expressed his concerns, and things have not changed. So when it comes before us, we always go on and improve the contracts for the elevators and things because they have to be upgraded. But the reality is we continue to support organizations that don't support the communities that we represent, which is women and people of color. So my objection is never to having the elevators repaired or having the work done. It's that I, as a woman of color, do not feel comfortable continually sending dollars to people who don't value our community and other people, and that we don't even have a trajectory of young people coming up in this industry. It's like an exclusive club. So that's the challenge. But in terms of this contract is sat for a year, and I'm glad to see that it's finally done and it's moving forward. Thank you.
Any more individuals in the queue? Let's move on to a vote, please.
So moved.
Okay. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Rooney?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla? Absent. Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan?
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Bella Reese?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We are now in our action items. Let's move to 9.1, consider approval of endorsement of the resolution of the Board of Education of the Oakland Unified School District, resolution number 2021-0037, reparations for Black students. Thank you, Jennifer Shanowski, for bringing this to the attention of the board. And thank you, Trustee Jenkins and Trustee Bonilla, for making sure that this would get on the board agenda. Okay,
So moved.
Second.
Withrow, second, trustee Jenkins. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, it was,
Trustee Withrow and trustee Jenkins.
got it. Sit-in trustee Urani,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Bonilla, absent, trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napolia Bellaris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 9.2, consider approval of resolution number 20/2125, condemning xenophobia toward our Asian American communities.
So
Motion.
moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Jenkins, and thank you, trustee Withrow. Vote or roll call, please.
Okay.
My pen is running out. I'm so sorry. Student trustee Urani,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Bonilla, absent, trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napolia Bellaris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Let's see, I do have a question about 8.1. It's a very short question.
8.1 on our consent calendar.
Yes.
Natasha, can I go back to that? I just want to make sure that we did not take it out of the agenda. Sure, the short question is going to be fine. I just want to make sure with council that there's no problem. Yeah. She's coming on. She's unmuting.
I'm sorry. We could take trustee Handy's question and we could, you shouldn't have a discussion on an item already voted on, but we could definitely take trustee Handy's question and get an answer back to her.
Sounds good.
I think it should be an easy answer. I looked at this and I understand what the services are for. My question was, are any of these services that we're doing this for, are any of those services the same services that we would expect to have coming out of the upgrade? Or is this something different? Because I realized that we were supposed to have upgrades in the finance department that would help with reporting and those things. And I'm looking at this, and that's exactly what they're doing here. So I was wondering, is this something that we'll be doing every year through a vendor, or is this this technology problem something that's going to be solved with the upgrades?
Chancellor?
Thank you. I think I would like to go and take your question and come back to you with it. And the question is, are the services in this the same as they would have been for the upgrade, or are they different?
Basically, is that the services that we're needing here to process these things that we need to for reporting, is this something that we're looking to improve and update with the upgrade? And I understand some of the upgrades of the modules and some of the areas that are supposed to really be helpful for finance and other departments are not moving at the level that we want. So that's why my question is this something separate, or is this something that we won't be these charges that we won't be looking at in the future once we have the module for finance upgraded?
So let me get the details to make sure we have an accurate answer for your question, and I'll provide that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to 9.3. Consider second reading and approval of proposed board policy BP 4220. Motion.
So moved.
Trustee Jenkins, second.
Second.
Trustee Withrow, roll call, please.
Student trustee Urani,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
trustee Handy,
Trustee
Yes.
Handy?
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Bonilla, absent, trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napolia Bellaris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 9.4, consider ratification of amendment number 1 to purchase agreement with Claridge Products and Equipment Incorporated to extend the term of the agreement to account for COVID-19 manufacturing delays and increase compensation by $966 to cover costs associated with required field adjustments for whiteboards installed in the new Center for Liberal Arts building on the College of Alameda campus.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins and Trustee Withrow, in that order. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Rooney,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla, absent. Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan,
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Bella-Reese.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 9.5, consider approval of classified personnel items. Motion.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Trustee Withrow, Trustee Jenkins, first and second in that order. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Rooney,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla, absent. Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan,
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Bella-Reese.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 9.6, consider approval of contract with Stephanie Harding in the amount of $13,500 to assist in managing strong workforce K through 12 pathway implementation and preparation for CTE advisory committees. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Jenkins and Withrow. Roll call.
Student Trustee Rooney,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
Yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla, absent. Trustee Gonzalez-Ewan,
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Bella-Reese.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And we are at 10, category 10, reports or trustee reports. Trustees. Let me start with Linda Handy, Trustee Handy.
Right. I'm sorry. This is
Trustee reports. Would you like to share?
no.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Trustee Withrow.
I'll pass on too.
Thank you. Trustee Deanna Delphine Polk.
I'll also pass.
Okay. Trustee Jenkins.
Recently we lost Dorothy King, and I want to uplift the life of Dorothy King, longtime owner of Everton Jones and Jack London Square. But more importantly than that, she was a strong community activist for the unhoused and the homeless. So I want us to uplift her life, her memory, and lift her family up as they're going through their time of bereavement.
Thank you for sharing that, Trustee Jenkins. Student Trustee Urani.
Yes. Yeah, so I would like to speak up for the recent horrifying anti-Asian crime, hate crime in the United States. As part of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, I can feel like many of us in our community are very scared and also very angry. To my Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters, I would like to encourage you to voice our fear and anger, to support each other when you see something, to reach our communities for help when you need something. And on the other hand, I must say that I'm so grateful to see at Peralta Colleges, there are so many amazing student leaders and staff to support our community. And our 4 colleges provide various AAPS resources. And lastly, we stand in solidarity with the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Urani. Let us go to Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan.
I'll pass. Thank you.
Okay. And I too will pass. I believe at this point, if we have any announcements, Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan.
I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me. Board Clerk Jenkins, could you, or Amiri, does one of you have them?
I have them.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would be most appreciative.
Sure. Let me just get them. So first of all, March the 31st is a holiday for our community. It's Cesar Chavez Day. So we will be honoring that. And then March 25th, let's see, Mark Johnson, are you here?
I am here, yes.
Okay, could you tell us about the March 25th?
You bet. On March 25th, we're having a bond program update. It's the 2021 bond program update. It's for members of the public who are interested in learning how the bond program money is being spent, the new facilities and the improvements that are being made. And it's also an opportunity for members of the business community to attend and learn how they can possibly participate in the bidding process for some of the work that's needed on these new projects. People that are interested in registering for this event can find more information at buildperalta.edu. That's build.peralta.edu. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have our, let's see, on March 25th, there is a Peralta Colleges Foundation March Madness Spring Virtual Event and Auction, a race towards building careers. So that would be something of interest for people to attend. And then, of course, we have our next board meeting, which is scheduled for April the 13th. Those are all the announcements that I have.
Thank you, Chancellor Walter. Okay, with that, let us adjourn. Have a wonderful evening. Be safe, everyone. Thank you for tonight, and we will see you in a couple of weeks, if not before then. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.